Hey guys, Boyd Duckett here, working on some tackle. I'm actually at a Bass Pro Tour event at Lake Fork. It's the middle of February. I want to talk a little bit about some of my favorite pre-spawn Duckett fishing baits. Gosh, if you talk about pre-spawn, and these are all things I'm rigging right now, actually gonna go out on Fork and compete tomorrow, but I'm probably gonna start with a jerk bait. This is the BD 115 jerk bait. This is a jerk bait that we spend a lot of time working on weight and balance. You know, all jerk baits are not created equally. Most of you guys know that. There's a lot of good ones out there. But one of the things that's really key is that when you jerk the bait, not only does it jerk good, but you also want it to pause slightly nose down. You don't want it to be tail down for absolutely sure. So this jerk bait, I promise you, I spent a lot of hours on the water making sure that this bait, after you jerk it, sits like it's supposed to, a little nose down pause, and you jerk it and a little nose down pause, catch a ton of fish on that. So that BD 115 is definitely February, March, you know, all winter really good cold weather deal. And of course, you know, the Duckett fishing baits, premium tackle, we put these super sharp katana hooks on, the titanium split rings. You don't have to work on these baits. Anything you get from Duckett Fishing, it's tournament ready, tournament grade hooks, tournament grade split rings, unbelievable finishes. So that's the BD 115, and hopefully that bad boy will work tomorrow. Probably my next favorite pre-spawn, you know, starting at the end of January, is going to be the BD trap. This is the Duckett fishing bait. Now this is a rattle trap. You know, it's funny, I got to tell this quick story. I've used, you know, lipless crankbaits my whole life. As any of y'all that follow me know, that I've won a lot of money on these baits. And when we started the Duckett fishing baits, I had everything built except for a lipless, and I didn't want to build a lipless that wasn't a rattle trap, because that's a brand that I think is superior to the lipless baits that are out there. So I actually called Wes Higgins, the president of Rattle Trap, and I said, hey man, you know, the BD baits, the Duckett fishing baits, we're just growing like crazy, and everybody's asking for a lipless, and I don't want to compete with Rattle Trap. So I actually got Rattle Trap to manufacture this for us. So it's a collaboration between Duckett Fishing and Rattle Trap, but this is very unique. One of the things I wanted to do was create a new sound where a standard Rattle Trap has like 27 to 30 shot in it, is the normal sound you're used to hearing. This is actually an 8-shot trap. So the Duckett trap is very different. It's got a much lower pitch, more similar to a one-knocker, but not a one-knocker, because it's obviously got 8 shots in it. We've got it in some super colors. This is my favorite early one. This was red craw, orange craw color. It's actually the 46R. It's the identical color that I won the Classic in 2007 with this bait, so it means, this one means a lot to me. Like all of our baits in Critical with traps, comes with super sharp katana hooks, quality split rings. If you haven't tried the Duckett trap, you know, it's a brand new sound. It's similar to the same bait, a little bit different than the actual trap, but very unique sound, catching a ton of fish on these. So some sort of a craw trap like this Duckett trap, it's a go-to for me January, February, March pre-spawn. We'll see how it goes. The next bait that I really like pre-spawn is some sort of a small compact spinnerbait. Now I fish this a lot. This is the Duckett Fishing water slash spinnerbait, and this is, oh, man, we are selling a bunch of these. This has started catching on last fall and into this winter. This particular one has a combination of Colorado spinnerbait, Colorado blades, obviously a small, if you notice, it's not a giant hook, it's a 3/0, katana hook, super sharp, high quality spinnerbait. We put super quality skirts on it, but I like, especially pre-spawn, I like the Colorado blades, and I like a small compact bait. When the water's cold, guys, I mean, some of the pre-spawn days, you know, in February and March, fishing's really on, but a lot of cold mornings, a lot of fronts come through, and the fish get finicky and they won't hit a big spinnerbait. But these little tiny compact spinnerbaits like this water slash, and that can really be the deal. I mean the deal at times. And I go down the bank and I throw it at anything you see, any kind of cover, just pitch it over there. You know, those Colorado blades make a nice thump, especially in stained water. So the water slash spinnerbait, available at duckettfishing.com. You got to check that out when the water's cold. It's unbelievable. A couple more baits that I definitely go with, pre-spawn. This is a 4.5 subtle tail, small swim bait, very unique. It has little movement. What's so key about the subtle tail, as you can see, it's got a little tiny tail, not very much meat here, just a little quiver. When the water's cold, you don't want a big, wide, wobbling swim bait. And this little 4.5 subtle tail, that's a go-to for me when the water's cold. I'm throwing it here at Lake Fork on an underspin. I really like to use an underspin head when the water's cold. Then I can't leave out, probably everybody's favorite pre-spawn. These are 1.5 square bills. Duckett fishing, we have 1.5 and a 2.5, really good for the spring. Normally, I would start with the craw if the water's stained. When the water's below 60 degrees, I throw craw colors. A lot of times it's the deal, but I always have two on the deck because there's days they don't like the crawfish, and I go immediately to a shad. So, sort of what I'm looking for in the spring, during pre-spawn, I'm going to start back. Even if I get water in the upper 40s, if I can find those big pre-spawn females, especially on up in the day, they'll move to the backs of the pockets and they get around cover. They're not spawning, but they're in the spawning type areas or just outside of them. Oftentimes when the water's cold, your biggest fish in the lake are in fact shallow. That's where the square bill, the little spinnerbait I showed you, definitely the Duckett trap, that's where that comes into play. And I'm going to start in the back of the creeks, not all the way in the way back, but flat, tight banks. And I'm going to see if there's a shallow bite. If it's cold or if they're just not pulled up, or it's windy that day and cloudy and they don't want to be shallow, then I'm going to pull out and I'm going to try to look at my mapping and say, okay, I know they want to be in the backs of the pockets. So what's the place they would pull back to? Is there a little offshore hump? Is there a deep ledge area? Is there some standing timber? Is there deep grass in your particular lake? Where would they stage before they roll up into those flats? Then when I get into that situation, I'm probably going to throw that jerk bait around some deeper cover. If it's standing timber like here at Fork, that jerk bait's a big player towards the backs of the creeks. Obviously, if I've got grass in the lake, then I'm going to throw the trap and probably also throw the swim bait. So that's what I'm doing pre-spawn. I want to find them shallow. It's the first thing I look for. If I can't find them shallow, I look at my mapping and I use my mind and I say, where would they stage in that 5, 6, 7, 8 foot water before they pull up on the flats? You buy some of these baits, you go through that process, you're going to have a big pre-spawn. That's the time of the year that we all catch the biggest fish. A little bit nippy out there, but it's a super time to go fishing.